Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Thanksgiving tournament here in Golf Clash at the game. We are playing the Vineyard Acres as a course, and I will talk you through my way of playing this course and giving you the best advice possible here for the tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Before we start, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can get the ultimate tournament guides, the best guides on the market for Pro, Expert and or Master by going to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. You do have the link directly in the description down below. Follow the info box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, we want to use the driver that gives us the most power possible. It doesn't have to be an Apocalypse, but the Apocalypse is here to display that, once again, we need the driver with the most power possible. 1.5 bar backspin to right spin is what I'm using here. I'm stretching out my target to be on the fairway with the ball guideline pointing into the bunker. You could see there that I did change the 2 bars of backspin in the end. This as I valued the tailwind to be a little bit stronger than I was anticipated from watching the arrow from a different angle. 1.5 ball curl to the right, max overpower with slow needle. For those that have not played with slow needle before, it means that you don't push up to max, and when you're not in max, then the needle will be slower when you do go with overpower. It's a simplified way of getting more power without having that very shaky needle. Second shot, we are going to play with an EB School method. Here I do recommend to play with EB School plus 20. If you don't want to use the EB School method, then obviously play whatever way you like, because this is a shot that needs to drop. You have no excuse of missing this shot, because that will make you be one shot behind your opponents, because basically everyone else will be getting an eagle on this hole. Adjustment is going to be max plus 20% with the drive, and then the second shot, once again, EB School plus 20 if you're using that. I would recommend to play with a power 5 ball if you have that possibility, but a power 3 ball in most especially tailwind would be no problem at all to be used. Hole number 2, and this is a tough par 3 where I would say there is a couple of different options to play this hole, but we're gonna play the normal way, which is gonna be to aim on the fairway. 4.5 bar backspin, and I'm using in this case as well 2 bars of right side spin. And then you may be thinking maybe it would be better to start with a Titan that do have 2 side spin, and yeah, you're right. But I was so focused on getting the wind resistance 3 here. Aim with the ball guideline, slightly shorter pin in tailwind. In headwind, you need to have the ball guideline through the hole or past the pin. And in crosswind, you can aim at pin high. Max plus 20% is what I'm using here in the video. And then hit perfect. In this type of wind, this shot is always going to be close, and we are lucky enough to get it to drop. But have in mind that obviously on par 3s, depending on what wind angle you're going to have, then obviously the adjustment in itself is going to have to change. So don't steer yourself blind with a 20% elevation, as that is a floating number. So in crosswind and in headwind, depending on what setup you have 20% as a base, but don't be afraid to change. Hole number 2 will always be a tough par 3 and has always been a tough par 3, so I'm very pleased to have a good shot here for y'all. Hole number 3, here is the same type of structure as on hole number 1. Pick the driver that gives you the most power. 3 right spin, I'm using 6 bars of topspin, and you can see that I'm positioning myself at complete max with the ball guideline pointing towards the top left bunker. Adjustment is going to be max plus 10. And once we have adjusted, we will in this case push up to very max. And the reason we push up to max is obviously to limit the amount of overpower we otherwise going to have to use. So you can see here we go up to very max, and then we use 1 ball of curl to the right with around 1 to 1.5 ring of overpower. You will have to have in mind that if you do play in a crosswind, you need to use more overpower. If you play in a headwind, you need to use most likely max overpower. The idea here is to get the ball down the fairway to roll up to position ourselves for a short iron towards the pin. Max plus 10 is that, just if I forgot to mention that. Second shot is gonna be with a short iron towards the pin. Here you're gonna have to play with a thorn. Sorry, not you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to play with a short iron that gives you at least 5 bars of topspin. So if low level on your thorn, then you're not gonna play with a thorn. Then you need to play with a hornet or with a falcon instead. But here I do have the stats with a thorn, so I'm adjusting for true distance, no elevation, with power 3 ball settings. You can see we bounce into the rough, roll up towards the pin, getting that drop for a really nice albatross. What you can have in mind though, that if you're not feeling comfortable with the rough bump, you can use the backspin and aim at the top of the green, because the green is downhill and the ball will then in that case roll down towards the pin. I would say that the rough bump is definitely a bigger chance for a drop, but there's always risks with a rough bump like that, where you might not have added the top spin enough so the ball falls back down again. So stuff like that to think about. In, you know, obviously you decide whatever way you want to play, but the rough bump is definitely the most aggressive and the absolute best way to get a drop. Hole number 4 is, in my opinion, the best chance we do have for a drop on the par 3s, because this, we are bouncing on a flat fairway, it's somewhat a flat green, and that's always going to help. I'm using max backspin and a little bit of right spin with my sniper. Have in mind that this shot is not possible with a lower level sniper, so then you need to switch to the Guardian instead. But obviously the value with the sniper is to have the ball guide line shown to be to the hole. And this is with any type of tailwind approach. Medium distance with a 20% over adjustment, and I'm playing with a navigator ball for 2 reasons. 1, we don't need anything better. 2, playing with a power 3 ball, especially in tailwind, is gonna put us in between clubs. Right that pin for a beautiful hole-in-one here on hole number 4. And I mean, you know, don't you just love when we can play with a navigator and get a hole-in-one here from second tee? But again, sniper, max backspin, can't be played with lower level sniper. You need them to play with the Guardian, play with the same structure, but have in mind that the Guardian has more backspin than the sniper, so you need to mirror the backspin amount that the sniper has, which is 6.5, and use that with the Guardian instead. Hole number 5 from second tee is a tough one, and I personally hope to get some tailwind, or as worst a crosswind. Headwind from second tee here is going to be very difficult. What I would like to do though is to use a 4.5 bar topspin to 6 bars of topspin depending on what wind angle. If I do have headwind, 6 bars of topspin, otherwise 4.5 bar topspin is going to be good. In crosswind, in tailwind, we're going to go down to 3 bars of topspin instead. 3 bars of left spin as well, as we do want to cut the corner there by the trees in a very good way, and we want to be as close to the left hand side of the fairway. Adjust max plus 10, I'm using some overpower after pushing up here, and to be honest, I'm a little bit lucky with that bad great left to still stay on the fairway. But this is honestly the absolute ultimate spot to be after your drive. Second shot, here you can do 2 ways. If you do have a tailwind, we can actually bounce over the rough here and actually attack the pin for an albatross. But if we do have a headwind here, for an example, I would recommend to not go for the pin at all. I would recommend to use topspin to bounce on the first fairway into the rough to roll out onto the green to just lock in the eagle. Because if having headwind on the second shot here means that we will have some sort of headwind from tee, and then that equals that there will be a lot of players making a birdie. So therefore we need to then lock in the eagle. Max no elevation on this shot here. Obviously the elevation could be tweaked a little bit depending on what type of wind direction and such. A great ball left is missing somewhat, but a great ball should be going maybe a little bit more left than what it should, but kind of at least. Hit perfect, and albatross is definitely in in the box of happening or what. A lot of Swinglish now, but I hope you know what I mean. In the end though, hole number 5, Eagle is the most important part and Albatross is a super bonus. Make sure to at least play yourself away from a birdie. For hole number 6, I want us to play with the rock or quarterback if we do play in crosswind or tailwind. If we do play in headwind, we need to play with a driver with more power, such as the Extra Mile, Thor's Hammer, or the Apocalypse. So I'm using the rock here, I'm aiming straight down the fairway. You can see that I'm not using all its topspin, which means that we can apply even a lower level the rock here. 3 topspin, 1 right spin. Important for me is to have the ball guideline not as close to the top rough. And the reason for that is that there is a risk for us to get a glitch roll on the fairway, which you will see in action here now. And that glitch roll could roll us into the rough if we are not positioned correctly. Because look at the ball, how it rolls there, right? You can see that speed, and if we would be aiming closer to the rough, then we would definitely have a risk of rolling into it. And if we roll into it, we'll most likely not reach for the green in 2. Now, second shot is going to be somewhere between the minimum and medium distance here with our sniper. It all depends on what ball you play with. It all depends on where you are on the fairway. That's why we do have medium distance in the info box. No elevation though is what I'm using. I'm using 4.5 bar backspin and 1.5 bar left spin. With the wind is pushing left to right, I try to aim just left side of the hole. This to try to compensate a little bit for the wind push when the ball hits the ground. So no elevation, true distance, and this should be playing approximately around 10 to 15% distance here. But as you will notice that I'm a little bit off with my adjustment, and therefore we are just gonna burn at the very edge on the right side of the cup. But that's obviously the difficult part with a shot like this. Bouncing on a bumpy fairway, we need to get our adjustment and our distance judgment absolutely correct. So no elevation for the second shot, 10% elevation for the drive, and this is going to be an interesting par 4 where an eagle is not going to be a must, but it's going to be a great possibility. Hole number 7. Here we are going to start with a power 4 ball to find absolute minimum distance. It's important to pack the grizzly as well to find that a very minimum distance line. I'm using 1 right spin and 3.8 bars of backspin. And you can see that the ball guideline is just through, not just through though, but it's through the hole, approximately 1.5 green square. Change into a kingmaker after that because I want to play with a win 3 ball and it's not necessary to play with a power 4 ball all the way through here. Max plus 10. Center the ball, hit perfect, and this ball will come in kind of close. In headwind, this is a tough one to drop in my opinion, and the reason for that is that we need to have the ball then to bounce on this slope that is just off the rough like that. And having that second bounce is most definitely going to create inconsistencies in your shot and the outcome especially. So we need to have that in mind. In tailwind and in crosswind, we obviously would like to start a little bit higher up, especially in tailwind, as we otherwise will come in between clubs, and then we can use more backspin and we can bounce over that slope and give ourselves a much better consistency on hole number 7. Hole number 7 is together with hole number 2. Two kind of, they look easy, but they aren't that easy. So if we do have a good shot to follow, which we do have, we are definitely having an edge compared to our opponents. Hole number 8, a tough par 4 in my opinion, and here we would like to play with Apocalypse even though it would be just in level 1. And the reason for that is we need and want the curl. So here I'm using 5 top spin, 3 right spin, and I'm using a kingmaker here to give myself the side spin 3. And the curl is approximately 3/4 of a ball right curl, and you can see that we're gonna bounce the first bounce on that very sloped fairway that will push the ball left. That's why we need the curl, we need the side spin, or we risk rolling into the rough or in the sand on the left. A kingmaker is not a must ball here, but obviously if using a ball with less side spin, you will have need a club that do have more curl. So you can't have both. Second shot, we're gonna play with the Guardian. And the reason we're gonna play with the Guardian is because we don't really have room to do anything else than go for a backspin shot or a very, very aggressive rough bump. So I choose to play with a backspin shot here. It's going to be aimed with the first bounce on the green and then trying to estimate with the ball guideline how the ball will roll back towards the pin. This is a tough drop once again, so please have that in mind. So dropping this one should be considered a bonus. 5% elevation through distance. Make sure to check where minimum distance are and where maximum distance are, and then judge based on that. You can see that the ball goes up the hill, falls back down, and in this instance it rolls in for a lovely eagle here on hole number 8. But once again, this is a tough drop. We don't really have much to judge with, as we are judging with a ball guideline that is not fully developed. Unfortunately, sniper is not a possibility. We do need all the backspin that we do have on the Guardian to even have a chance for a drop. So hole number 8, tough one, but I mean, as I always say, it's makeable. Hole number 9, and here we are going to lay up short on the first fairway. You may be thinking, why don't you go for it when you do have Apocalypse level 6? Unfortunately, even with an Apocalypse level 6 here, you will not be able to reach through all that thick rough. But have in mind now that we do have some topspin boost balls available. So for those of you that do want to spend a topspin boost ball, could have a chance with tailwind and also with some slight crosswind to bounce not over the rough but bounce into the rough to roll through to the other fairway, which would potentially put you in a spot where the eagle is going to be a little bit easier to achieve. But if we don't have that possibility, which we don't have here in the video, we are playing with a power 4 ball as preferred. You can play with a power 3 ball as well, but power 4 ball is preferred as we do want to have the power for the second shot. Not so much for the drive, because we will easily reach with a power 3 ball there also. Now, second shot, I'm gonna play with 7 bars of top spin, 2 right spin, and now I'm aiming towards the right side of the top bunker there. Max no elevation on the second shot, and the only thing that I'm not worried about it, but the only thing that I'm thinking about here is to get past the trees that you have on the right hand side. The reason that is important is because if we do have the trees covering our view towards the pin on the third shot, then we will basically have no shot for an eagle at all. So we need to get past it like this, so we do have an open view and have a chance for an eagle from distance. Now, this was 2 shots. Now we're gonna take a look at the third shot, but before that we're going to obviously change when it comes to the clubs and also the elevations. We're gonna play with a thorn, meaning we're gonna play with a short iron, and then we're going to play with a different elevation, which is gonna be 10% this time. And it's gonna be true club distance. It's gonna be somewhere around the medium distance of our club when it comes to the third shot. So let's take a look at the third shot as well, and see how we can manage that one in a nice way. So check your club distance. You can see here I'm doing a pin check because this is an old guide shot and we are very close to max based on where the pin stands. So we're gonna back up, and I'm always playing this shot either without spin or just with 1 or 2 bars of backspin. I never use side spin here. It's just a personal thing to have that done. So have in mind that try to avoid using right spin or left spin if possible. So here, aiming slightly short of pin. And the reason we're aiming slightly short of pin is because we do have a tailwind. Ball guideline will be extended, so we don't want to come in too hot. Adjustment is going to be made. Again, have in mind the 10% elevation needs to be applied. Then obviously the club distance will vary depending on where we are after the second shot. Perfect ball. Ball bounces on the fairway. We love when the camera turns around. And now we drop this one right at pin for an eagle. And an eagle here on hole number 9, my friends, is a drop. So don't be mad just because you're getting an eagle. Trust me, there will be way more players that are getting a birdie here, because, you know, getting to the green in 2 is only a possibility if you get through all the rough on your drive. But then it's still going to be a power slice, I think it is, coming left to right, that you need to do spot on to get the ball to green. So this hole is gonna cause a lot of trouble. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Vineyard Acres here for the Thanksgiving tournament in Golf Clash the Game. Make sure to get the best guides on the market for Pro, Expert and Master by going to patreon.com/golfclashtom. You do have the link in the description down below. Thank you once again for watching and good luck in your Golf Clash game.